Hello and welcome. This is our playing favorites plant episode.
Our plant-based episode.
Yes, it's plant based. It's made with
Yep.
soy. No,
Yep.
no. Today we're going to be talking about for our bonus episode a movie that Paul has never seen before, and I'm really excited to
Yeah.
hear his thoughts because it's one of those like '80s movies that he missed. He's usually really good at getting the '80s movies in ahead of
Yeah.
me. This is the one that you missed, I guess. We're gonna be talking about the little. I keep messing it up too. I keep thinking Rocky Horror Picture Show, but that's not it. This is Little Shop of Horrors with
Right.
with Rick Moranis and many other lovely guest stars.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Rick Moranis, Ellen Green, and Vincent Gardenia, the three main
Yep,
characters of
yep,
this.
yep. And then
So this is kind of like our Halloween episode, and
sure,
this is
it's perfect.
it's not like really a horror film, but it has horror themes which are fun.
It's disturbing at points, and
Yes. Sure.
but yeah, it's definitely horror elements, and it's definitely sort of odd and weird as we get into this movie. Little backstory. I watched this movie a bunch of times when I was like middle school. Somehow stumbled on it on television. Probably watched it like on Comedy Central or something weird like that. And I watched it a bunch of times. I've always watched that like weird television edit, so I've never like sat all the way through. So this was a weird rewatching experience for me, like sitting it without those commercial breaks, I guess.
I wonder if they also like edited parts out of the movie, like cut like 6 to 8 minutes of the movie itself, because they would do that with,
Yeah,
when they would edit them down for TV. They'd be like,
sure.
remember at the beginning, they'd say like, "This movie has been modified to fit your screen, and
Hmm.
may be missing important plot points that will make the
Yeah, so I don't
movie
know
make
if
sense."
I don't know if I missed anything or if like they just like obviously they edited it for like because it's on television for certain things. But I remember like it still had like a lot of the horror elements. I mean, because it really isn't
Mhm.
like too gruesome. But I just it's some of the things that were in this movie I don't remember at all. Probably because just I remember the cool stuff, not like some of the other stuff.
Yeah, you're probably. I mean, like you were probably enchanted as I
Yeah,
was by the puppetry in this
that's
movie, because
that's
it's
the best
really
part.
good.
That's the
Like
best part.
we were just talking for a minute, like just like the practical effects of this. Like it really is a solid film. Like they did a really good job of turning what could have been very like super cheesy into just something that's silly but done really well.
Mhm.
Um, that's the best compliment I can give this movie, is that it
Yeah,
is still like the silliest thing I've seen in like a musical format, aside from like South Park, but it's done really like well with like, you have Frank Oz directing it, so there's a lot of good attention to the puppetry.
yes,
But
yes. That's like
just
it's yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, no, I just wanted to say like this, like you, I would like see glimpses of this online like on TV, and I just never thought it was worth watching. I was just like, oh, it's some, like I said before, like some dumb movie about a plant
Plan.
that gets big that like turns into human, like, or like can talk. I didn't know that the plant. So we can like briefly like go over the plot, but like
Sure.
I didn't know that the plant subsisted on blood. Like it needed human blood to survive.
Yeah, and like here's the thing. Like, okay, so to kind of back up for a second, if you don't know what the Little Shop of Horrors, it's a musical that was made in 1986. But we already listed the cast of characters: Rick Moranis, Ella Green. I don't know who. I've never seen Ellen Green before. I might have seen her before in something.
She's been in stuff. She's been in stuff. Oh my god, I love her though. Her voice is just
Oh,
so
it
funny in this.
hurts me.
Every
It
time
it
she
hurts
talks,
my it hurts my soul. Her voice, I can't stand it.
it is like it's so like on purpose. Just like I was actually rewatching a little bit of it now with Kristen before we started, and as we were like saying goodnight to each other because she's going and I'm going in here, she goes like she says something in her voice, and I was just like, just gonna go and record a little podcast now. Like it's just always like breathless.
Seymour, Seymour. But yeah, so it's definitely like and I don't want to like even spoil like the cameos because obviously even on the if you go look at like the poster like the movie poster, the other person that's in it on the poster is Steve Martin, who
It says like special appearance by
yeah,
Steve Martin in the
who
credits at the
it's
beginning. I was like,
it's probably
special
he's
appearance.
probably one of the best characters aside from the plant in this movie. To be completely honest, but we'll get to that. His performance is hilarious and wonderful. Like
I
it's just so
I
random.
I will just say this about, before we like talk about his actual character. It's very few times where I actually like laugh out loud at something. And when it was like when they revealed that he was the guy, he was Audrey's boyfriend, I just like like I laughed. I was like, Steve Martin?
Yeah.
Because they were like building him up as this like sadist, tough guy, rebel, and then all of a sudden you find out he's also a dentist. To like throw that in the mix.
Yeah. No,
But
but
like
like
he's this tough guy that's like beating up on Audrey, and you're like, oh god, who is this scumbag? And then fucking Steve Martin, like on a green screen, riding a motorcycle, into the movie.
but yeah, so like this the weirdness about this movie, because the movie is based on a Broadway musical, which is based on a movie.
Oh, the Roger Corman movie,
Yes.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's the one. Yeah, okay, yes. So
I think it's
wow, I didn't.
I think it's Roger Corman. Yeah, it's yeah, little so it's based on the
The
1960
Little
movie.
Shop, yeah, but they call it the Little Shop of
Yeah, which I think
Horrors.
I called it that
Like,
before. But yeah, that one's a little bit different. It has a little bit different story. It's about him finding a Venus flytrap that can speak. That's I don't know if he eats people in that movie or not, but like but
I
that's what
think,
the musical's
yeah,
based on. But then they twist it and turn it to being the plant and alien. So
yep. Yep. I like that beginning, especially like because so much of the beginning, like the exposition and intro is all like in song. So like the Skid Row song,
yep.
and then like he says like so Rick Moranis brings this plant right to the florist to the window of the florist. They're like, this might attract business because the florist is on Skid Row. It looks like it's about to close, and like the owner is about to like shut it down. He's like, well, let me just put it in the window. And this is my first like my favorite cameo, like second favorite
Yeah.
cameo. Is Christopher Guest just shows up and he's like, hello. What is that strange and interesting plant in the window? Like in the most like normal guy voice
Yep.
ever.
Yep.
He's like,
It's so
wow,
funny.
that was an interesting story. By the way, let me have $50 worth of roses. And he's like, can you break 100? And they're like, oh no, we can't. He's like, well then I'll just have to have twice as many. And then like immediately after, people are like, what is this interesting plant? It's so like
So
like this movie is just like it's kind of like a parody of Broadway shows at the same time, like
sure.
as you're watching it.
Yeah, because
Oh,
I
it's so
love.
good.
Well, if you go back to the very beginning, because you got the what they call the according to Wikipedia,
The
I'm using
chorus.
the Greek chorus as they call them in Wikipedia. Crystal, Renette, and Chiffon, by the way.
It, I don't know if they were actually calling them. Yes.
I'm just
I didn't know if they were actually
reading
calling
it.
them a chorus, but it does the same thing, right? Like
Yep.
they're just giving you like little plot points and kind of like, are you
Yeah.
still with us?
And
Okay.
they're just always in the background. I love the one thing about starting with them, since they're pretty much the beginning of the movie. They sing the prologue song, which is the Little Shop of Horrors. It's probably the one song
Yep.
that a lot of people know from this movie.
Mhm.
Da, 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 da. Okay, no more. We can't get YouTube yelling at us.
For doo-doo-doots.
But yeah, so like they obviously give like kind of like an introductory of like what's going on in the movie. I don't even remember the lyrics too much, but it's just like them in this really kind of weird looking dresses. They don't seem to fit them very well, to be honest.
They are. I will say, like their first outfit is I was like that kind of weird fitting, but it's funny because it's such like a juxtaposition, right? Because they're like dressed all fancy, but they're in like Skid Row, and like that's like a running theme is just how crappy it is where Rick Moranis where this flower shop is. I gotta say, Skid Row seems like I don't know where this Skid Row is, like downtown, but I'm like,
it's in New York City,
I don't know,
supposedly.
like a
I
lot
don't
of,
know.
I'm like gentrification kind of fixed Skid Row up, I guess. I don't know, it turned into something different, which is crazy, but yeah. I was trying to place like what city could this possibly be, and I like watching the movie. I'm like, it's angry like New York City, but
Well,
it
it is.
looks kind of like Chicago.
It's considered New York City. That's
Oh,
what
it
it's.
is.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's it says rough neighborhood in New York City referred to as Skid Row / downtown.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it definitely has that vibe of the city, and then plus it's supposed to be taking place a little bit in the past, I guess. Like it's not
I know.
it's not
I
it's
love
not the
the
it's not the 1980s at all.
just like just like Star Wars. There's an opening crawl, and then the narrator says, it's like what he's like in the early years of the last decade. It's like, oh, okay, sure. It's like the way he set it up was like saying like my brother's sister's uncle's cousin, roommate. It's like,
Yep,
okay, so it
yep.
was some time ago,
Doesn't
but
matter. But no, I love back to the story that he tells. Was it Jeffrey Guest or I forget his name.
Christopher Guest,
Christopher
yes.
Guest is the song's called Dadu. That's the name of the song,
Dadu.
and it's
Yep,
just like I
because
was walking down the street and I went to this flower shop and he got nothing there. And then there's something happened in the sky. I turned around and it was there and he sold it to me anyway. Dadu.
yeah, like at the beginning you see the owner holding a newspaper that says totally like unexplained total eclipse of the sun, end of the world question mark.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Hey, do you remember when there was that strange total eclipse of the sun?" And then they show like a green light zapping and like landing a plant on the shelf with the other plants. And so you get the gist of it right away that this plant is an alien of some kind, like bent on world domination or just bent on eating. Feed me,
Yep. Feed me.
feed me.
Um, but we find out the problem that happens is after Christopher Guest leaves and the shop has a great day that one day, like
Yep.
makes tons of money. Everyone wants to see this interesting exotic plant, and it starts to wilt. Because what happened? He was going to offer them to go out to dinner and have a great day,
Oh yes.
but then Audrey. Oh,
Appetite.
I love it. It's like I named it Audrey too. Is that okay? Oh, really?
It's like you could have just named it Audrey. Named it Audrey too.
Audrey too.
I'm like that is what Rick Moranis would do.
I
Oh,
love Rick Moranis in this movie so much.
he is funny.
Yeah.
He is funny. It's strange. Like I've never since I haven't seen this. I feel like I've been missing out on this Rick Moranis performance.
Hmm.
Um, you get the picture like Audrey is this like breathless, very like meek but very nice a young woman who clearly her and Seymour like have like there's a chemistry there, but it's like so obviously done. It's like they're star-crossed lovers, or like they have the near miss, like, oh, like you would come and pick clothes for me.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
like, you should spruce yourself up and buy some new clothes. And he was like, oh, I'm not a good shopper. She's like, well, I could shop for you. You do that for me? You'd be seen in public in a department store with me? She was like, sure. It's like, tonight? I got a date tonight.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, okay, we get it.
But Rick Moranis is oblivious too, because he's just like obviously has a thing for her, but like when like he doesn't see the problems with the boyfriend that she's having, but she's like he gets like a black eye the first time you meet her, and
Yep,
like he's like, oh, what's that new makeup?
yep. It's like, is that new eye makeup? And then I love her sling. By the way, he some like
Yeah.
breaks her arm or something, and she's got this like black lace thing that's like wrapped around her neck and like holding her arm. That
Yeah.
like just like the way that character is put together, just it's very funny. It's tragic, but it's very funny. But then you meet who her like
Well, before we meet him, but like he has to spend time fixing the
Steve
plant,
Martin.
right? He has to fix the plant, like so. That's when the whole thing we learn
Yes.
that he wants to eat blood because it's like it's wilting. He doesn't know what to do for it. He can't. He's tried everything. but the owner's like, you better fix it, because supposedly the owner like found Moranis' character as an orphan and took him in.
Yeah, and basically made him a slave. It
Yeah,
sounds like
pretty much.
he's like, well, I found you, so I can enslave you. Like
Hmm.
that's the. He's like, but he's very good to him, according to Rick Moranis' character. He's good to him. He took him in. He makes him work every day, and he gives him every other Sunday off. So
I would have back rewind for a second because I know we do this a lot with these kind of movies. It's like I just back to the whole like song of Skid Row. I find the whole thing hilarious. By the way,
it is.
like the
It
people
is
that
good.
are jumping around singing and like the random like people. It's like a Broadway show. It is like kind of making fun of it, like getting musical lyrics to different people, and like you got the two main characters obviously walking around as the rest of the
Mhm.
chorus thing. But I love the end where they're all just standing in the middle of the street doing like this like looking at the sky camera.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
It's just
It's very
like
just an old fashioned like everybody's doing it, singing,
yeah,
singing to the sky. Everyone's looking in the same direction.
yeah,
But I really I love the fact that the music that song starts with this uh, old woman who's clearly like come home from like a terrible day of work.
yeah.
She's just like trudging down an alley, and she's like, "And you come home
Oh, that's
to
right. Yeah,
Skid
because that's when
Row."
you meet the chorus that when they're not in their like their I guess their Skid Row
Yes,
personas, right?
when they're just
They're loitering around
citizens.
the house or something, or loitering somewhere.
Yep, around the store.
But yeah, so it's like it's just so funny the transitions in this movie, and it's very musical. It's very musical-esque. It's like you almost could have taken like it's like taking those Broadway musicals and making like a film out of them, like they've been doing recently in recent years. But like
Yeah.
it's very like as if this is on a stage. Very, it has that vibe a lot. Like I guess they
hmm
built this whole set for this movie too,
It
which
looks it because you can see in the background, like in the distant background, like the sky is just like a matte painting. You know,
mhm,
it's not like an actual. And they uh this yeah, it's clearly like a pretty big set for this like city. I'm sure like some of it's been reused before because it looks just like a downtown kind of area.
mhm,
They like dirtied it up some more. I love how you do like in the actual like creation of the set, like you have like the asphalt of the road, and then you have like where it's worn out, and you have the cobblestone street underneath
yep,
too, and potholes. Like in every pothole, it's like filled with water, filled with dirty water, and like a brown paper bag in a like holding a bottle is like in like every is like almost in every shot you can find like a discarded bottle of booze. It's like
attention to detail.
they
That's what
really
that
dressed
is.
that set well. They
It's
dressed that set well.
attention to detail.
Yeah, for real.
Right.
And
Frank Oz makes some good movies. Let me tell you.
what are some other Frank Oz movies? I
Indian
can't
in
think
the
of any of them.
Cupboard. That's all I know.
Oh god. Was that your favorite childhood? What was it? Favorite
Favorite
young
trailer.
adult book?
That was fairly well. That would have been in there, but trailer was
Oh, that's right. It was for favorite movie trailer. That's
yeah.
right. Got
But
about that.
that was an honorable mention. I don't think it was my favorite trailer, but anyways.
Okay.
But then we get like okay, so we have him like doing the whole him trying to figure out what's what's going to make him grow. So he gets like he does this is where the puppetry
Like,
starts coming into play with the plant where he does a little like he
yep.
like does a little baby like I want milk like motion, which is
hmm
really kind of hilarious and kind of disturbing a little bit.
It is. It is a little creepy. Rick Moranis cuts his finger on a rose thorn, and he's like sucking it, and then like the creature starts making the same noises. And so yeah, he's like, "Well, I'll just give you a few drops."
He sings
And
it
the
though.
song is
That's the
like,
one.
"Well, what do you want?" He's like, "I'm giving you sunlight. I'm giving you dirt."
Oh man, it's so good. And then we jump to Audrey, who has a daydream, like a dream of somewhere green,
Oh,
and that is hilarious. Like her dream of being like middle class housewife.
like a 1950s housewife. Yeah, like he's mowing the lawn outside, and then she's hosting a Tupperware party.
Yeah,
I like
it's so
them.
funny.
Them all sharing TV dinners, like they're having TV
Yep.
dinners and watching I Love Lucy on a gigantic, enormous
Yeah.
12-inch screen.
It's just like it's like the song she sings. It's such a it's such a funny thing where it's like that person that lives in the gutter or lives in the crappy town, like dreaming for this like
Hmm.
fantastical life, which is just like kind of most people's lives, right? It's just, but having a house and is a dream, I guess, back then to have that kind of American dream of living in a house. But it's just like watching it, even in the '80s. I think like when it came out would have been like kind of a weird sort of laugh, like or
Because
satire,
it's
right?
it's it's not like, oh, I just want to live, like, I want to have my own house. It's like I want to live in a 1950s track house. Like
Yeah.
that's it's like the houses from Edward Scissorhands, like the
Yep.
neighborhood. Like
Yeah.
it's just like picturesque. Every house is exactly the same, with just like slightly different color. And yeah, and
Yeah.
they're watching I Love Lucy on a 12-inch black and white screen. It's 1982 when this musical was out, and '86 when the movie came out.
Yep. Yep. Because it's
It's
based
not
on a
like it's
1960s movie.
so. I guess it is. Maybe if we're saying that it's taken place in this, if it's supposedly taking place in the '60s. Oh yeah, it has to be, right, because they
Mhm.
say like President Kennedy talks about the total eclipse
I think so.
of the
Yeah.
sun.
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, her dream is not necessarily like so out of date, but it is to us because we're like, oh my god,
Well,
like
yeah. It's like
how like
it's kind of like another '80s movie, or like late early '80s movie, which is A Christmas Story. When you watch it, they're
mm,
dating, and you're kind of like, it's funny because it's like, oh, that's how it used to be, or that's how. But this he takes it
yeah,
like kind of a step in a more even like satirical fashion. It's like it's just funny how it's presented, and I can't stand her voice though. I can't. It's just like it
I was
drove
gonna
me
ask you,
crazy. It
did
is so
you did
hard.
you when you were watching it again, did you like dread when you saw like her song was coming up? You're like,
I
oh
see
great.
that's the thing I don't remember about this movie. Like I honestly might rewatch when I first saw this on what was on HBO Max. So if you have HBO Max, you can watch this.
Yes, you
Um,
can.
but when I first saw that when we played it, I'm just like I don't really remember the beginning of the movie that well. Like I didn't
Hmm.
remember any of it because I'd always like catch it like I'd always miss like anything you watch on television. It's like you always miss the beginning, or you might miss like the end, or you might. It's always kind of random, and I don't remember her like introductory too much. I just remember, I always just kind of remember it always starting when Steve Martin shows up. So like I
Yeah,
don't really know how it kind of started too well, and I think my memory of her, I don't remember her song that much, to be quite honest. Like I just, and maybe it didn't bother me back then. Who knows? I don't know. And again, like with commercial breaks, you can take a breather away from her
yeah,
voice a little
sure,
bit,
sure.
right?
But I will say I probably you were probably in the same camp as Kristen, but like as like she started singing, I looked over at Kristen and she just like looked right back at me like, really, really, a
Yeah.
whole song of this? Okay.
So I tricked my wife. I was like, she's upstairs, and I found it. I told you I was gonna put it on and watch it. So I started watching it. So I messaged her. She was upstairs. I'm watching a musical. That's all I said.
Oh, very good. Very good. Well done. The trap has been baited.
She comes
Did
down.
you hear
She's
thump 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 like
no.
running like
It took her a little bit, and she's like comes down. She's like, "Which one you watching?" She sits down. I'm like, "Oh, you've ever seen it?" She's like, "Oh, I've never heard of this movie before. I've never watched it." So she was watching it. She saw this part here of the song. And she's just laughing at the Tupperware party and
mhm.
things like this. But our upcoming uh, song is when she decided to leave. She couldn't
Is
finish
that
it. She couldn't finish it. She couldn't finish it. Pretty much well, I guess we have a couple songs until that point. But pretty much
which
when
one are you which one are you thinking of?
well, she'd say it through the song. It started with the dentist song. I think that's when it
Ah.
started. Kind of things started to turn,
Ah.
and then right after that, Bill Murray's part just
Oh my god,
disturbed her.
yes.
So
He
yes, Bill
steals the
Murray.
show.
Bill Murray is in this movie, and it is hilarious. But I'm trying to remember. So he continues to he's okay. Oh, that's right. Before that though, Rick Moranis is starting to get he's getting exhausted because he's running out of blood.
Yes, yes. So he's just like kind of waiting in the store and like kind of blankly staring, and that's when you get the scene where he like kind of asks Audrey to help shop for him, and she's like,
Yeah, go
"Sure."
on a date. Yep.
So I've been meaning to tell you this really from the beginning, and I don't want to forget. But if they had done the Michael Keaton Batman movie a little bit differently. Ellen Green, the character who plays, or the lady who plays Audrey, could have been a very convincing Harley Quinn in the
Oh
Batman and
yes,
Batman Returns
yes,
world.
yes.
She is like perfect for that. Like she could be. Couldn't you just imagine
Definitely the
her
voice wise,
with
yeah.
like with the makeup and like a giant hammer, like swinging on her back and like kind of like delicately walking with her high heels, like, oh, I'm so sorry, honey, I didn't mean to hit you with this giant
Puddin'?
pallet.
I could just hear her say puddin'. Just hear her say puddin'.
Puddin'.
Perfect. You're right. It's hilarious. I love it.
That's my dream Harley Quinn cast.
Now I love her voice. Perfect.
Yes. Now you like her. But yeah, they reveal like so. Shortly after that, she says like, "I'm sorry, I have a date," and they're like, and the owner once again he does this thing like, I love when she shows up with the black eye the first time, and the owner is like, he's like, "Is that a Shina? Like, what's he doing? I'm starting to think this guy isn't so good for you." And it's like starting to think, like I like just I'm like looking around like, what do you mean starting to think? She's got a black eye. Yeah, I'm starting to think that maybe this guy isn't as good as I thought he was. Like, okay.
He makes good money.
Oh yeah, he's a professional. And you're like, who is this guy? And they like kind of build him up.
His name is Orin. That's his name too, by the way. It's
yes,
Orin.
Orin. Yep. And they build it up, and you're like, who is this like scumbag? It's like, wears a leather. Like these are the clues that they give you. Wears a leather jacket, rides a motorcycle. He's obviously hitting Audrey and like very violent and kind of a sadist. And then it's revealed that it's Steve Martin. And that makes you laugh right away.
Yeah.
And immediately you're like, okay.
Well, the initial shot of him is just like a close-up shot of him riding a motorcycle with like
on the green motorcycle.
A horrible wig for one.
Yep.
Just, like,
He's trying to be like a greaser from like fucking West Side Story.
And he's just like Elvis Presley impression or something like that.
Yes. Does a lot of motions. He like jumps off his bike and the bike keeps just sliding and he like points at it and it stops. So stupid.
But then we get like I think this is probably my favorite song. It's close to some of the other ones, but the Dentist song is amazing.
Yeah. It's great. I mean, it's all the physical comedy along the way.
Yeah.
He just tortures people. Like he just comes in.
He's
like,
I was a bully.
And I love pain.
I used to like kill Kit Kats for fun or something like that. I can't remember what he says in the song. But like it's like so I became a dentist.
Yeah.
And I love how
basically
name,
like
the
name
of the
song
song
reveals
is,
that
the name of the song is called Dentist with an exclamation point. That's what I find funny too.
He's basically you find out he's basically a psychopath that's been like funneled into doing something like, oh well, you should just you like to hurt things, well then you should become a dentist. Like that should be your job. Like his mom like suggests it to him.
Yep. But like the best part about that whole like scenario, like obviously you have like the humor that's like with all the patients and like him like them climbing the ceilings and falling into chairs but like it's just the one and they have the chorus because they're always showing up randomly, like always around different outfits every single time. I appreciate that. I really truly do. But this part is my favorite appearance of them. It's been when it's filmed from inside the mouth. Looking
the perspective shot of like like a giant mouth. Yep. And you can see Steve Martin is like in one shot he's holding the tool with his hand and then in the other shot it's this enormous thing, but it's because it's the perspective of him like coming into the mouth to kind of like
but the dancers are there too. They're like in the background singing.
They're dressed like in scrubs, like they're his assistant, like they show up in the rooms when they're singing. No, they're good, and that whole sequence is great. I love the giant open mouth.
So good. I feel like that's when the movie starts to like really get good. Like, me rewatching it, like because I kind of knew what it was coming. Like I was kind of anticipating where it was going. Like the beginning kind of felt a little slow to me because I don't remember it taking that long, even with commercials, to get to the good part.
To the actual big plant singing.
The whole point you watch this movie really is Audrey too. And because like the first which mean, to be frank though, this movie is only an hour and 30 minutes or something like that. It's not even that long.
It's a
It's
tight 94 minutes.
yeah.
It's good. It's good though. It gets in and gets out. It
Yeah.
doesn't overstay its welcome. I like movies like that.
Hmm.
More movies should be 90 minutes.
Yes. But so then after we meet the dentist, right? Seymour gets introduced to Oren finally,
Yep.
and he offers him a free root canal, which I thought was funny.
Yeah. On
Um,
the house. Steve Martin.
it's so funny. It's so good. I love how it does say it's funny that it's featuring because I feel like he has a pretty decent role in this movie.
Yep. Yep.
But I guess it's like I mean, in consideration to the rest of the film, it's kind of a smaller thing. But it really
It
is kind
is.
of like referencing like how you would a play, right? A play would feature a certain actor for a certain role, versus like the main cast, right, or something like
Yep.
that.
You would have this like very important cameo or like a very funny cameo, and another one that comes right around this point when the plant starts getting better and starts getting bigger and brings more people in is John Candy, who plays the radio
Yes.
DJ like on
It's
WSKID.
weird. What's he going? He goes like this.
Yes.
Like I actually thought it was funny because I was watching it because he's in like a broadcasting booth. I'm like, man, we should have little things for our podcast. Like
I know.
little
Just like bells to ring. He's
just
like,
like
"Oh, here
they
it
just
comes!"
go
Ding,
like
ding,
this.
ding.
Weird.
But it's like the morning. What do you call them? Like the morning zoo shows or
Mhm.
whatever. Like the morning radio shows, but without the soundboard. It's just like him manually doing everything.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, let me fix my neck," and like crack.
If that
like,
doesn't
crack.
really explain what time frame this is, I mean, you think about it, right? Because that,
And his haircut too.
yes, definitely. But no, John
Definitely like
John Candy was something I don't remember. I was like, when I saw that, I'm like, holy crap, that's John Candy.
I had no idea he was in the movie. I had no idea Steve Martin was in the movie, or
Or Bill
Bill
Murray.
Murray.
Yep.
Bill Murray is my favorite cameo. I think as the equally masochistic
Oh my god, that was
patient
so
who's like,
yeah. But before we get to Bill Murray's character, that's when we got the "Feed Me, Get It" song, right? It's the
mhm.
it's the what is it not the where Audrey finally says something for the first time, right? Because he's a gigantic
Yep.
plant at this point. Because this is like a little bit after he does the commercial with John Candy, which is really just a quick like just him on a show because he is a really interesting exotic plant. I love how they keep saying that over
Yeah.
and over again.
An exotic plant. Where did you get that strange and exotic plant?
Well, I have a story.
That was an interesting story.
But
I love Christopher Guest.
but the voice of Audrey 2 is so
Mm-hmm.
perfect and so beautiful. And like it's magnificent. I mean, I remember like thinking this was amazing back when I was like middle school or high school seeing this. But I don't think I really appreciated it then. I really don't. And I think there was a ride or some sort of thing in Universal Studios too that related to this movie.
Really?
I remember like there was a thing we went to, we saw the plant, or there was something there. So like it was always something I knew about a lot when I was a kid.
Okay.
And I remember like it just like it always stuck with me, and I think I might even seen the original ending at that event because I think they showed it looked familiar when I watched it. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, there was cause I think they were like showing like how they made the plant and the animatronics behind it and all that cool stuff. And
It's
just
interesting.
first time you see him sing, like in this like "Feed Me" song, right?
Yep.
It's just crazy. Like
Yeah,
it's just it's my like I don't think Star Wars has even done that. Even the newer films with like puppetry,
animatronics and you would think it was like high-tech animatronics of something you'd find today or like in a theme park today, like to just and it blows like a lot of characters or things like that from other movies out of the water because it's so expressive. The mouth, because it doesn't have any eyes, right? It's just
No.
like what looks like a giant Venus flytrap. So it's just a mouth. It doesn't even have really like a lot of teeth. It's just a mouth and a tongue, and it's kind of gross, but it's very expressive and it's very like good at like the way that it enunciates its words, and I think Levi Stubbs is the
Yep.
person who voiced Audrey 2, does like this amazing job. Either they must have been like watching him do it and like trying to mimic his mouth and like facial movements to really like sell that, because it does look like a living plant. It
Hmm.
doesn't just look like a puppet. It looks kind of impressive. And I feel like they did the play justice and the story justice by because it could have been really terrible if that thing looked bad. Because if it looked bad, then the rest of the movie is kind of overshadowed by
Well,
a
yeah,
bad puppet.
yeah. You had to make that look perfect. You're right. You had to make that look perfect. I don't think like the movie itself, if it would have just come off. You might as well go just see the play, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's not. You needed that kind of like extra pizzazz to
Yep.
to make it a film. And
Movie magic. A little bit of
yeah,
movie magic.
yeah. I'm looking at like Wikipedia really quick just to see how they did that because it has like a section on it. It's like the frame rate of the filming of the plant was slowed to 12 to or 15, 16 frames per second depending on the scene, and frequent screen cuts were used to minimize the amount of screen time the puppet spent with human actors. When interaction was
Oh, okay.
necessary, the actors,
Yep.
usually Moranis, would pantomime and limp sync in slow motion. The film was then sped up to the normal
Oh,
24 frames per
really?
second, and voices were reinserted in post production. Levi Stubbs' recordings were filtered through a harmonizer that, when slowed down, so that they were more coherent with Moranis or Ellen Green. So
Hmm.
they did like some weird, like sort of filming. Like it seems like if I'm reading that right, so Rick Moranis didn't really sing the song in that shot. He mouthed it slower,
Yep.
and then they
Yep.
sped it up to make it make sense. I guess
That makes it even
that
more
makes a lot
impressive
more.
because
Yeah, that's crazy that they figure that out, right? Oh man, that's awesome. It's so
because
cool.
the shot, like that song that they're talking about, when he decides like, okay, I'll go and kill Orin and bring him to you to feed you because Orin is bad and he's hurting Audrey. I'll feed him to the plant. That song, like when they're they're like side by side, like singing like at each other.
Yep. Yeah, that
That
shot's
scene,
awesome.
it looks good. Like to me, it didn't look like anything weird or funny. It looked like, wow, like they're doing a good job with this plant and the animatronics and whatever's inside of this plant, to make it seem like Rick Moranis is really singing with it. Yeah, man, kudos to the people who put this movie together,
Yeah, and it says
because
there were no blue screens or opticals involved in any way, except with the exception of the reshot ending, which we'll get to. They
ah,
did a little bit of that for the the actual ending, not the original ending.
mm-hmm.
And then some of the original ending was also used some of blue screening and stuff like that. But and then I guess the plant had 6 different stages of growth as well. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, it's crazy how much time and effort they put into that plant. But and that
I
that
I
that right there makes
even
it worth watching this movie, if anything, aside from all the other great stuff. But
if you want to like a good example of like the attention to detail and like the way that they made the puppetry work and make it look really cool, like for something like this, for a movie like this that's this old, when Audrey 2 grows the first time after he gives her the blood, it's just like a still shot, like they're just like shooting on the Maxwell House coffee can that she's in. And
mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, like the coffee can just like dents out and like dents
Yep.
out, and then like she just kind of like grows. Like it's not like, I don't think it's like stop motion or anything. It might be whatever they did to make that look like smooth and natural in like a regular like set environment, and not like some like crazy green screen effect. It made it look. I was honestly like impressed with just like the amount of practical effects and like the quality of the practical effects. It wasn't just like somebody going through a window and like, wow, that window really broke.
It makes me
It
wonder like what stopped those effects from happening. It's like doesn't seem like I've seen it anywhere else or been brought anywhere else. I mean, Frank
the
Oz
last
isn't a person that you don't you know who he is. I mean, he if you don't know who Frank Oz is, seriously, just
just say it, Justin.
uh,
Just look at your shirt.
he wasn't in this movie. Well, yes, he was. He was a voice.
Yes, he was.
But no, but I mean, beside from Yoda, I mean, he's the Muppets. I mean, like he's Miss Piggy. I mean, he knows puppetry so well, and obviously he is filtered his way into a variety of different Hollywood, like being connected with George Lucas alone and Jim Henson. You think
Yep.
about it, it's like that's like the networking gold mine. It's like how many movies in the '80s had Jim Henson in it? Seriously, I mean, like,
Yeah, Frank Oz has, by way of them, has had his hand in a lot of things. And to answer your question though, I think it's honestly probably too too expensive to do practical effects like this. Maybe, I don't know. I could be wrong. The last real big like practical effects showcase in a movie I've seen was Fury Road. It was Mad Max Fury Road, where you still had like green screen and CGI elements, but a lot of it was, actual, like seeing real people, flesh and bone people, like doing these amazing stunts and stunt work and
I mean,
things like that.
the budget
Real
of this the
explosions.
budget of this film was 25 million.
Wow.
It made 39 million. I don't know if
Oh, so
that's
they made their money back. I don't know what that is in terms of
yeah
1986 bucks,
yeah.
but well, that is what it is in 1986 bucks. I don't know what that is in 2020 bucks,
Hey,
but
you know what? I just realized it was released on my daughter's birthday. Well,
oh
the date, not like she wasn't born in 1986, but
no. I had her when I was 3.
but yeah, but obviously that song is awesome. And I love how it's like the "Feed Me, Get It" song. Like, there's a line where it's like they keep saying "plant food" over and over again.
Yep,
It's like
I'm
I
giving
love
you
that.
plant food.
So they obviously in that song because like I think like right after that song or right before that song, he's trying to convince Seymour to go murder people
Yep, yep.
because he can't just do blood anymore. He needs something more.
Feed me.
And he's like, I don't know who to do. Like, he's just like, no, I can't do that. It just seems wrong. And then they shows Oren beating up Audrey in the window, who happens to live across the street for some reason.
Yeah, I love how like people who take off on their motorcycle like immediately are like back in the neighborhood like minutes later, like walking back into an apartment.
Well, they went
But that's what
somewhere
they did.
because I think she's like chasing him, right? Because she's like
Well,
kept calling him doctor, right? He was like, doctor, doctor.
yes, like she was like, she's like, I'm sorry. Like,
Sorry,
sorry
doctor.
what? Sorry, doctor. But she fell off the motorcycle and he was like storming away from
That's
her.
right. That's right.
He was like running away. It's like, stupid broad, falling off the motorcycle. She's like, I'm sorry, doctor. Like chasing after him.
Yep.
But yes. So he does, like Rick Moranis there. Seymour does decide. He's convinced. If anybody deserves to die, then it's Steve Martin's character. And he can be fed to Audrey.
I mean, no one deserves to die, but he deserved to die.
Yes. Yeah.
But so to get to Steve Martin's death, this is where Bill Murray actually comes into play. So he goes plan convinces him to go to kill Steve Martin's character Oren. And so he goes to the dentist's office with a revolver. He looks so
yeah, Rick Moranis with a gun is just like, wouldn't you just laugh at him if he pulled a gun on you? Like, okay, sit down.
But you're introduced to Bill Murray, who is just like, I don't even know what, like, I don't know if it was just this is something in the play or if it's just something they like. Well, let's just throw this in there for. I don't know
I think
why.
it had to be in the I think it had to be in the play, and that was probably like a role that people would always like laugh, like it would get like big laughs, like whoever this guy was just be acting like really excited to get pain inflicted upon him, like a total masochist, right?
In a play
sadist to his
perspective,
masochist.
In a play perspective, it probably would be more hilarious because you're not seeing the shots that they're doing for him. Like it's even more disturbing. This is where Amber had to walk away. Like she couldn't handle Bill Murray's love of being like
tortured.
Given what's it say on here? A long, slow root canal.
Yes. He's like so excited. He's like standing. He's got like I don't know. He's like kind of like crouching in the chair instead of sitting in the chair. He's like crouching up on the chair, and he's like, "Me, I'm next. I'm next." And
and,
then
and
he's
then
like, "I've
and
heard of you."
there's a kid that comes out too that's got tons of braces and
Oh,
like just like
he's got
covered
like the like
like
some kind of like something from Saw, like from the
yeah.
Saw movies, like on his mouth, like clamping his mouth. Oh, and
And it's like he asks him a question. It's like, what did he do to you? What did he do? Like
it's like, oh yeah, that always happens when they try to remove the
it's
jaw.
like blah 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 blah. Blah. You can't even understand
Yep.
what the kids say. And then like Steve Martin characters come out. It's like, well, who's this guy? And then the what's the lady leaves, right? His
He's a
receptionist. Like,
receptionist.
I'm off
Yeah.
duty. You have to deal with him. And he's like, come on. He's like Steve Martin's like motions in this movie are hilarious. Like everything is
Yeah.
jerky and like it's almost like William Shatner from Star Trek a little bit, but like almost
A little,
up
a
a
little
notch.
bit, a little Elvis, a little,
Yeah.
a little Shatner. Like,
It's like, come on.
well, come on, like just doing stuff like that. But he does when he takes him to the back and they're like chit chatting and well, Bill Murray is just like going off like, say, I heard so much about you. Like he's just like very excited for this to happen. And at one point, Steve Martin is just like pulling his tongue with like pliers, and he's like, "Oh yes," and he like you can hear Rick Moranis, or you see Rick Moranis just like waiting in the waiting room. He like slips in, and he's got the gun, and you hear Bill Murray just going, thank you," like.
I'm
Of
just
all
like,
the things that were disturbing in this movie, like that was up there because it was just so very much like
but it's so funny because
a
it's like the
masochist.
shots aren't really that bad. It's like the not seeing shots that really get you. Like it's like you don't really
Mm-hmm.
see what's happening, and like it's just like the dialogue, and they do enough to show you. It's kind of like what's it's like the showing of the weaponry, like his tools,
Oh
right?
yes, yes.
And it's just enough. Like you don't even know what the tool does, but you're just seeing it has jagged points
Yeah,
everywhere.
they're just like weird shapes of metal with like teeth and like saws. And when he eventually like kicks Bill Murray out, he's like, "Get out of here." He's like he's not Steve Martin is not enjoying it at all.
Yep. Nope.
So he like kicks him out, and then
He's like,
he goes
I'm
to
telling everybody about this. Like Bill Murray is like, I'm gonna file a complaint report or something like that.
yeah. Well, no, he's not a complaint. He was like, "I'm going to tell all my friends about this." Like he's excited. Like he's like, "I'm going to tell my other friends who enjoy this."
Oh, I thought he was
But he,
disappointed, but okay, all right, I get you too. All right.
the Seymour is sitting there, and he goes over to Seymour, and he's got one of those tools, and he's like, "Do you see this? Are you afraid of this?" And Seymour's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Good." He's like, "Does this make you scared? Do you want me to touch like use this on you?" He's like, "No." He's like, "Perfect." And he grabs him and brings him in. It's like then he's like, "All right. I need to make sure I really enjoy this. I have to put on my. I think I'm gonna want some gas while I do this." We haven't mentioned that periodically he'll just sniff nitrous oxide. Steve
Yeah.
Martin's character, like it's cocaine. Like he's got a little like cylinder. He's like, like every time.
Oh my god.
So he puts on an elaborate gas mask thing to
the
like.
gas mask thing is ridiculous and it's hilarious and it has balloons that come out of his nose.
Yep, these little black. Like, so what happens? Like Rick Moranis is going to actually shoot him, and he's like laughing hysterically because he's on the nitrous oxide. And then he goes to turn it off, and the valve comes off, and he just keeps getting it. He's like, "Oh wait, can you help me? Oh wait, why would you?" Basically, he kind of dies like the Joker's laughing gas there.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there is a little bit of a Harley Quinn crossover here going on. We don't know. She wished it, and he died with a smile on his face as the Joker leaves his victims.
Nice.
That's just a little aside there. But yeah, so he dies, and Rick Moranis unceremoniously drags his body through Skid Row back to the flower shop.
Yeah, and this is where it gets sort of like I remember these parts as a kid. Like I don't even remember the dentist scene that much, honestly. Like him like going to kill him. All I kind of remember watching as I was a child was him dragging the body away from the dentist. And I wonder if they cut out the stuff where he goes there. Maybe they just didn't show that scene with Bill Murray. I can see them
Okay.
not showing that on television because like
Yeah.
it's from my
It's a
understanding,
little.
my memory of it was like, oh, go kill him. The plant convinces him, and then I just see him doing the axe thing. Like I don't remember much else in between.
Oh wow, they might have cut some of that down. They might have for TV, especially Bill Murray loving the pain. I bet they would have cut that down to
Yeah,
just like Bill Murray like appearing and just saying like,
yeah, because
"I'll
like
tell all my friends about this," and
because
then
like
him like pushing him out the
it's not
door.
like I didn't know who Bill Murray was back then. It's like I watched this as like a 8 year old, but it's like I don't remember
I
that
mean,
scene
like
at
middle
all.
school, like yeah, he's not as like well known as he is
But I
now.
knew
You know, like
Ghostbusters. I knew Groundhog Day. Like it's not like he was in a lot of stuff that I watched back then, and I
yeah,
would
but
have
he's
remembered
he's in
that.
the movie for like 2.5 minutes
True,
total. Like it's.
I guess, but I just that scene, the whole scene just seemed like so new to me. Like it did, there was
Mhm.
like no recollection whatsoever. But like,
Sure.
but the second it hits that point where he starts like, you see the shadow where the owner like sees him starting to cut him up in pieces. Oh, because he's like he brings it to the plant, right, and um he's like chop it up or something like that, right? He's like he asks him to cut it up.
Yeah, he has. Well, he just like has an axe and he's
Well,
going to cut.
the plant asks him to cut it up. I think
Does
maybe
he?
two.
I don't know if he.
Yeah.
I don't think he.
He's like it's just
Whatever.
like here, take it, and he's like chop it up, and so he has to pull it back, and he then the owner like sees him through like the backyard, like the shadow of chopping it up. You see like the gigantic shadow of him chopping it,
Yes.
and
And the owner happens to be coming home and he's like across the street and he sees this giant shadow of Rick Moranis chopping firewood. But
yeah,
it's he like looks and he sees and it's a reveal like he knows who he is who what Seymour did. He
hmm
knows who murdered him, which comes back later. Not
yep.
too far in the future, but
Yeah,
yeah.
like there's not like it kind of like all of a sudden the movie just goes really fast. Like I feel like from that point on, there's a lot of stuff that happens from this point. It's because there's a lot of montage and like things that like because obviously they have that moment. I think they have the song where it's like what suddenly Seymour or something like that.
Yes.
So
Suddenly Seymour.
they confess their love for each other after like he just casually. That's the only thing Rick Moranis is like does. I really that evil in this movie is like he just really does a really good job at playing it off. Like, oh, what the cops want? Like,
Oh,
what were they asking you, huh? Like, it's like,
what were the Yes, he's not very good at all. He's like they like show his bed and it's like still made and they pan over to him and he's just been in his chair like feet shaking like
yeah,
all night, just
yep,
like
yep. But
tapping his heels all day.
so and he all of a sudden because of that, like, he's gonna like get with Audrey. They're gonna be good together, whatever. But then the owner confronts him, and I love the song too. Is Supper Time? It's such a funny song.
Oh,
It's just like it's supper time.
and
It's
he's
like,
throwing in parts of Steve Martin and
oh no, no. This is for the owner because he's already done he's already fed Steve Martin's
oh,
pieces.
okay. Oh, but they do a reprise of it, but that's with when he tries to. The song comes back when he tries to eat Audrey. Never mind. Never
Yeah.
mind.
So, but this
It's
part, it's like
supper
him.
time, part two.
Yeah. It's So the owner confronts him. He's like, I know what you did. I know what's going on. But you know what? I'll let you get out. I'll let you get out of town. Like I think he just doesn't want
Yep.
anyone to know what happened because he wants
He
he's
just wants the
doing
plant.
he just wants the plan to be to get money. So he's doing his own things, and that's the one thing I read too about this movie. It's like it is that kind of like everyone that has done something wrong or against like moral values gets it in this movie for the most part, right? The owner gets it. Steve Martin characters gets it. Um, and we'll get to who else should have gotten it, maybe. Um, but yeah, it's just I love how it's like he wasn't gonna do it anymore, but then he was able to feed Audrey to once again with the owner, and it just kind of snowballs from there, and he becomes famous. And I love the song for that too when he's just like going through the montage of I don't know what the name of that song is, but like there's a shot with like the singers like in like an office like wearing like white glasses and just like sitting at desks when they're singing. I just find it funny.
Okay, all right. I think I remember what
It's
you're
like when
talking
he's like
about.
getting all like the fame and fortune. Like he's getting all
Oh,
that
is
fame
it
and
the Meek Shell Inherit? Is it
yeah.
that one? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like they're like he's like going to like offices and then like all like the choruses they're wearing like white rimmed glasses and they're just sitting there like writing like on the typewriter and like I don't
they're
know, it's
gonna
just
be. Don't they like around this time they offer him like a TV show? Like
yep,
he's gonna have his own
yep,
botany,
yep.
primetime botany TV show.
Yep. So that's where it's like the show like does a bunch of stuff. Like he's becoming famous. I don't even know how long how long it's gone by this point. Like
Hmm.
how like is it been months, weeks, years? I don't. Probably like a few months maybe.
I wonder
And
how often the plant really does need to be fed, though. Like how long does a human body sustain the plant?
yeah, and
I
how many
wonder.
other did he kill other people? That's what I want to know. Like
That's a good core. That's a good point.
he only kills
Because
Tim Martins and kind of the owner. Like he pushes him in there, but like they don't show anyone else die that from from Rick Moranis, but like it makes it seem like he's been doing a lot. So I
hmm
wonder if there's
hmm
other people that have like been murdered or killed or maybe he was grave robbed. I don't know. Who knows?
no, it's
But
gotta be fresh. Gotta be fresh.
yeah. But so then finally it's him deciding he's gonna get the money and run, right?
Yep. They're coming over with a big check tomorrow.
Yeah, because oh
Yes.
that's right, because he was gonna have like a big they were having a big like thing with the plant and like he
Might
kicks
have.
everyone out, right? Isn't that what happens?
Yep. Yep. They said they'll be back tomorrow with a big check. So he's like, with the big check, we can leave. Like we can get out of Skid Row, and you can come away with me. Like, would you marry me? And she's like,
Yes.
yes, I will.
Yes, and then
And
the most randomest cameo in this movie, Jim Belushi.
oh yeah, that's where the movie really took a turn south, if you ask me. I'm like,
Jim
great,
Belushi.
Jim Belushi. And I was just reading before that it was like, yeah, they actually wanted, was it James Dooley to do it, but he was unavailable, so they like,
This guy Jim
I
Belushi.
guess we'll get Jim Belushi. We'll
Belushi.
get yeah, Belushi. That's what he should be called because he's
But
Beloof.
it's so random too that scene because like again you can kind of see where how it would work in a play. Like it's like they decided to make that change because in a play you could just have that character walk out. It's like, hey, I got this awesome deal for you. Let's do this, and he's like, no, no, no. But like here it's so awkward because they're like in a back alley, and Jim Belushi's like, hey, I finally found you.
Hey there. And I was like, oh god, Jim Belushi. Seriously. But
So
he's offering what? He wants to like breed Audrey twos to sell them. And Rick Moranis is like, no, no, like that's a horrible idea. Get out of here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So then he tells Audrey to go home and pack, and then he goes inside, and
And
he's
he's
like,
got
he tells Audrey
he's
too what's going on.
yep, and he's well, he actually goes in and he tries to sneak out with
Oh, that's
like
right.
a
He tried
couple
to sneak out. That's
suitcases,
right.
and then she just goes, "Feed me," and he's like, "Okay, well, just this one time, and it's just gonna be something from the butcher." Like
I'm
he's
gonna
just
go.
gonna go and
I'm
get her
gonna
like
go
some
get you.
ground,
I'm going to yeah, ground round.
yeah, a couple pounds of ground round, and so
you hold a
to
hard
like
bargain or
clearly,
something like that.
yeah, and clearly pissed by this, the plant like calls Audrey on the
I love
phone,
this
and
part. I love this
somehow
part.
it was like, "Hello there," and she's like, "Who is this?" He's like, "Oh, you know who this is." He's like, "Seymour," and he's like, "What?" She's like, "I'll be right over." Like,
Well, no, she
it
sees
doesn't
him
sound.
out. She looks out the window and sees him
Oh,
in the window.
oh,
I love that shot.
that's right.
It's so
That's
funny.
right.
He's like, "Hello," in the window,
Yes, that's right.
but it's like you think he's just gonna like pretend to be Seymour. I think like that's the kind of the impression I got actually
Yep,
even
yep.
rewatching it.
Like, can he
But he's like,
disguise his voice?
"Hello,"
And it's like, nope.
but I love how he just is like when he leaves, he's like, "Oh, okay." He just like pushes his legs out and he moves himself. He like grabs vines and pulls himself
Hmm.
around and he dials a number. It's so funny how they do it.
Hmm.
And like he literally just calls her over so he can eat her. And so and this is where the ending, just like the climax of the film starts happening. So he comes back, like Seymour comes back and he sees like just her legs coming out of
Yep.
Audrey 2. He pulls her out. She's got blood
Manages
all
to
over.
get her out.
He's got like lightly blood on her white dress and pulls her over the
Yep.
side and she's okay, I guess. So he's like, I'm gonna end this now.
Yep.
And he goes in and like the best song, one of my favorite songs is the Mean Green Mother from Outer Space.
Yep.
And
That's where you learn that it is actually an alien. It like reveals itself as an alien
outer space.
from outer space. Yes.
No, Rick Moranis is like outer. Like I love that it's like that '80s like shot where it just shows their eyes and them like saying what they're thinking from outer space. But that battle scene with Rick Moranis in this plant is just so funny, and it's like because it's just like little babies singing.
Yeah,
They're the
like
chorus, right?
his little like Audrey 2 backup singers, like little tiny ones, like
Yeah.
like just singing along with their mother, their mean green mother. But so
it just Seymour jumping around trying to get weapons and not doing very well. He loses.
He's terrible.
He loses balls. I think at one point. I don't think he has kids anymore.
I don't know what that part like. How did that? What exactly happened? Because like.
Well,
all of a sudden, there's a vine.
The song says like, "I'm going to knock out your balls" or something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to grab you by the balls, or like, I'll have you by the balls.
Yeah, and he just like shoots the vine right, like it just like pretty much hits him like right at the right angle, I think. And then what the plant makes the shop cave in.
Yeah, she like traps him, and then she gets accidentally
electrocuted. I've been saying he. I don't know it.
It's Audrey 2.
It's a guy's
It is a plant.
It's like
I don't know. It is a plant though.
It's gender fluid.
It explodes. Yeah, sure. It is.
But no, but he gets like Rick Moranis' character looks like he's dead because like he's covered in rocks and all you see is his like leg, and then it's just a shot of him grabbing an electrical thing and just electrocuting him, blowing him up.
Yep.
And like a Death Star. Like literally, it looked like he blew up like a Death Star. That's what it looked like.
With the nice ring around the Death Star blowing up.
Well, the original blow up, not the special effects version.
Not the special edition version. But they reunite. And then they get married, and then they move to the suburbs. Right? They get that little track house. Yeah.
Yeah,
but you do see as the camera pans away, as the camera comes out, you see there's like a little Audrey 2 bud in their flower bed,
smiling.
So, yep, smiling, little smile.
So that's Little Shops of Horrors, and
that's the ending I saw yesterday. Yep. But that is not the ending that was originally intended.
No.
What do you know about the original cut?
Oh, I know plenty. So the original musical is not a happy ending. This is technically a horror movie after all. It is kind of awkward if you think about like watching the ending. It is like I think I said, it happens really fast. Like it's just like, I'm gonna stop this once and for all, and he fails horribly fighting this thing, and just by pure luck, and even like the camera works kind of. If you think back to it, it's very choppy compared to the rest of the film. It's like, oh, here I have electric fuel, and it just blows up. It's like it's a very quick end to him. Very,
it does seem like, now knowing that there was like a different ending to this, it seems like suspect now thinking about the ending, because I was like, that did wrap up pretty quick. Like it just kind of like, I would think that the fight would go a little differently, but I was like, well, whatever. Like the movie's ending. It's on its way out, so it's just ending.
Yeah, so the original one, which is a lot longer of an experience, so it's like it kind of meshes with what you see, except Audrey dies. She doesn't survive. They reshot that, so like her being like mutilated inside the plant doesn't keep her alive. She is like mortally wounded, so she dies. Obviously, he tries to end this once and for all, just to, I guess get revenge or whatever. But he fails horribly. Like pretty much everything happens in like we talked about, where the song happens and the crash happens and the rocks fall and everything happens. But then pretty much Audrey 2 grabs him, and which this scene shot looks a lot more climactic and a lot more well put together than the explosion of electricity. Like
Sure,
like the Rick
sure.
Moranis' death is like the worst death in this whole entire movie. It
Yes,
is weird. It is Rick Moranis really.
it's a little
I
gruesome.
I feel for him, and it's again it's not bloody, right?
No,
But
no, but it's like it's slow,
yeah, it's
and you're like,
slow, and like you see the fear in Rick Moranis' character like a lot. Like
yep,
I kind of like I felt bad for him, and I can see the reason why this wasn't aired, because even though this is the true ending, is what's supposed to happen in this film in this story, is that the test audiences just didn't like it, and I could see why they might not like it because it is kind of like sort of depressing, right? Like you kind of don't want the main character to lose, even though they
yeah.
should.
But I mean, this is what kills me. This whole movie, this whole play, is kind of like a send up of musicals and how these movies are supposed to play. So them dying all of them dying tragically in the end makes sense,
Yeah,
and it should be what the ending is. If you told me that the original ending was that they live happily ever after, I would have been kind of like disappointed. Like, oh, that was really what they intended. Um, like watching it the first time and not knowing that there was an original ending, I was just like, oh, like the ending kind of sucks, but I don't know how else they would have ended it.
yep,
Like I guess they were just like they ran out of time, like so they got to end the movie. Like it happens with a lot of movies. Like they have a great story. The climax is like okay, and then it's like, well, we don't know where to go from here, so we just need to kill something, have a wedding, move
yep,
them away,
yep.
and just finish the story. And we'll do a little tease for, like, oh, it's not a complete happy ending with a little Audrey too. But this one is like, no, you've been feeding an alien human beings, and there are consequences for this,
Yeah,
and you can't just electrocute your problems away. So
but
in the original ending,
yeah, the original ending.
what?
There's a lot besides that too. It's like it continues that plan of Jim Belushi.
Yes,
Because like I
so
guess in the
he
original play, he's like, "Oh, we've already started it." Like that's what he's supposed to
yep,
say.
because there's no public domain or plants are in the public domain.
Yep.
Uh, that's what they said. Like because plants are in the public domain, you can't copyright a plant. So he had already started making Audrey twos.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Seymour does get eaten, and the most I don't know, like tragic part of it is like when Audrey 2 spits out the glasses. And you just see, because there's always like the little hope, like, oh, maybe he's okay, maybe he's got the gun, maybe he's inside of her and he's gonna fight out. It's like, no, spits out
No.
the glasses and starts cackling, and you can see her mouth. He's like not in her mouth anymore. It's like it's done,
The one thing
it's
that's
done.
really gruesome about that is because you see like so many different angles of that death, right? It's like him
Hmm.
getting picked up, so you see a shot from like the whole room. Then you get the shot of him face coming towards the plant, but then you get the
Yep,
perspective of Rick Moranis going into the mouth.
that
And
was.
it's like you get like every angle, and it's like watching yourself die in like five different ways.
Yep.
It's like oh, and then seeing what happens to your remains, I guess, which is just
This is why I don't like test audiences. Like the idea of testing it against an audience. Like who cares what a test audience thinks? It's like listen, like if somebody is sitting with you and they're saying like, or they show you a movie and they're like, well, what did you like about the movie? And they're like, okay, like I like this and I this. Well, what didn't you like about the movie? Who would sit there and say like, oh, I loved everything? Of course you're going to
yeah
nitpick. If somebody's asking you to nitpick, of course you're going to nitpick. And I think it's pretty stupid that they had to
yeah.
change the ending
Like I guess like
because
when I originally watched the film, not knowing this original ending, like I didn't really have I was indifferent about it. I guess I'm like, oh, that makes sense. It's like your typical ending, and like you said, it's like the journey is always really all I care about, and everything else
yep,
about the movie is great. But like if you know what the original play is, and you know what it's supposed to happen, it's like it's a little bit weird that they changed it. I think the
yeah,
problem with the original ending is it was too long. It's a lot of destruction. I think they
it
could have.
is a lot of. They could have pared it down a little. Because what did they say? It's like it was. You sent me that link, and from where I was picking up, it was like already 12 minutes. Whereas the
Well,
movie, I think, ends 3 minutes after the fight.
Yeah,
like within
it's
5 minutes from
11
the
minutes,
final
but it
fight.
is using some footage from the original, like the real ending,
Yeah,
and but like it's 11 minutes that whole original ending. I think because they kind of cut it differently. But like one thing I'll say is like you think that that's the end. I mean, it could have just like ended with Merc Manus dying and like it just like maybe someone say like maybe the singer's coming out and saying like, oh well, that's what happens when you make a deal with the devil or something like that, right? And that could have been the end. But no, they go like what happens to the world after this small little adventure, right? And it's just like the entire United States gets destroyed
yeah.
with
They've taken over the world. They
yeah,
have
like
they're like an army of giant plants has taken over the world, and like where you see them taking down the George Washington Bridge, and then you see them climbing like the Statue of Liberty, and then finally in the end they're just like cackling, and then the Audrey 2 like bursts through the screen and
yeah,
is just laughing.
the end question mark exclamation point exclamation point.
Yeah, it was like two question marks and two exclamation points.
But
Like Miss Man,
I
I was
bet
like,
like
wow, that's a lot.
most of that 25 million budget was on this like 10 minutes that wasn't in the movie. It's like
Because you had the army come in, shooting and launching
it's
like
just
rockets at
but the
her,
special
the
effects of
helicopters.
that whole scene. It's like you watch deleted scenes of like movies now, and it's like it's not fine tuned. The special effects aren't perfect, but you can't do that with like that kind of stuff. You have to film it
No,
perfectly the first time, right? It's like it has to
it
be
was
good,
filmed. It was
and
filmed and it was ready to
it looked
go.
really good, and like granted, I think the one on YouTube is like not the remastered or the better version of or quality of it, but like the way they handle Audrey 2, like we talk about how amazing the lip syncing was and animatronics, but like putting Audrey 2 in so many different places, and we before the movie we were saying how like Frank Oz should be making Godzilla movies because of this
Yes,
6 minutes.
yes. This is what Godzilla King of the Monsters should have been,
Yeah,
right? Like just like actually showing humans trying to fight monsters and the monsters, winning, not just like enormous things making lots of dust. Because
yeah,
that's what I
no,
feel like a lot of that movie is.
it's great. I mean, I think both endings are fine. Like I actually kind of makes the original ending feel a little bit more special and unique. I kind of like having both, sort of, just because
I don't mind having both. I kind of like that there's a version where they do live happily ever after because Audrey and Seymour have had just rough lives living on Skid Row. You want to see them. You want to pull
I
for
mean,
them.
if anything,
Even though, even though,
Audrey doesn't really do anything that bad. I mean, she just can't get out of a crappy relationship, right? I mean,
yes,
she doesn't really. I
yes,
don't think she really deserves
and she
anything.
and the next person that she picks after the sadist dentist is an accessory to murder. Somebody who can be convicted of maybe not murder in the first degree, but certainly manslaughter. Like he watched the owner of the store, get eaten. He
I
didn't
mean,
save him.
is it illegal to chop up a dead body? Is that
Yeah, I'm gonna say I think it is. I'm gonna think it is. I don't think it's like chicken. It's illegal for you to chop up,
because he
meat you
didn't?
find in the.
I mean, I guess he was attempting murder. He didn't actually succeed, right? Like, with,
He could be tried for attempted murder, right? But he didn't do it himself. It wasn't his fault. Um, but yeah, he did. He could be, I don't know, accused of grave robbing. I guess. There, we bring back grave robbing.
I don't know,
But
but so
I got to tell you, man,
final thoughts.
I
Final thoughts. Oh, go ahead.
yes, my final thoughts on this. I was pleasantly surprised. I did not know what to expect. I was not expecting much, but I was rewarded with really silly, funny things and a lot of tongue in cheek humor. And Steve Martin and Bill Murray
John
like
Candy.
stealing the show, and John Candy
Jim
like
Belushi doesn't
just
even
like
ruin
stealing
it.
the.
It's too much
Don't
good stuff,
don't
right?
don't mention his name. I don't want to Belush this podcast any more than it already has been. But I really do. I highly recommend it. It's as we said, a tight 96 minutes, which is really easy to get through. It's very entertaining. The songs are catchy. I think
What's
this is a little bit of a hidden gem from the mid
yeah,
'80s.
just over 100 minutes if you had the original ending though.
Okay. Well,
You
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
watch you gotta watch that too.
I think you should. Yes.
Yeah.
And it should be grainy and found on YouTube and not not a special remastered version. You should. That's how original cut like different alternate endings should always be like slightly different color, like different lighting.
Yeah, so I guess it was only in black and white for the longest time, or something like that, and then
Really?
they made a DVD or something. I was reading on it, like they finally remastered it, put it in color.
Oh.
Oh,
well, that's nice.
Yeah, so
I like both endings. You can have them both.
I am excited we did this. It was kind of a random bonus episode. I stumbled upon the movie. I'm like, wow, this would be perfect for October. And I haven't talked.
It is kind of spooky.
Yeah, no, definitely watch it. It's like I said, hidden gem. Have a good time. It's a lot of fun.
All right, man. This has been pretty fun. I don't know, as bonus movies, bonus episodes go. I was very surprised at how much I agree with you. I agree that this is a movie worth watching. So
okay. Awesome.
Until next month, shall we sign off?
Should we sing a song?
Suddenly, Justin, it's time to end. This podcast is going long. Time to put it to bed.
All right.
All right. Well, this has been Playing Favorites. I'm Paul.
And I'm Justin.
See you next.
What?